Good morning, folks. Welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. It's Saturday morning, July the 12th. I hope everyone's doing well. For those of you who watched the all-female card yesterday, I hope you enjoyed it. And for those of you who are planning to watch the card today with Shakur Stevenson and Hamza Shiraz, amongst others, again, I hope you'll enjoy it and that your chosen fighters will prevail. We are now 1 week away from what might be the biggest fight of the year. Arguable. Some people might say it's Canelo Crawford. But for me, I think it might be Undisputed Heavyweight Championship of the world that is deemed to be the most important. And that, of course, is between the Ukraine's Olexander Usyk, who is the unified champion, and Britain's Daniel Dubois, who is the IBF champion. The fight is going to be held in Wembley Stadium in the UK, and apparently it's going to be sold out. So it'll be very close to 100,000 people, I suppose, somewhere like 96 or 97,000 people. As you know, I am favouring Olexander Usyk. I am a fan of Olexander Usyk. And as you know, if you've watched this channel before, I'm not too keen on Team Dubois. I make a distinction between Team Dubois and Daniel Dubois, because I often think that Daniel Dubois is poorly represented, shall we say, by his team. Anyhow, I have flogged that horse. It's well deceased. So I thought what I would do today is I would give, with 1 week out, my thoughts, and hopefully then during the week I'll have an opportunity to chat with one of my guests, maybe the coach, Julian, or one of the other guys, and maybe get them on here and do a final sort of assessment a little closer to the time. But this is going to be my view with 1 week to go. So let's just go over the tail of the tape, as they say. As we said, Usyk, the unified champion, he is 23-0-0. Of his 23 wins, 14 have come by way of. So he's got a total of 23 professional fights. He's 38 years old, 6'3", 78-inch reach. Pretty much the Muhammad Ali type height, and he's a little bit heavier than Ali fought in his prime. He also shares the same birthday as Muhammad Ali. Let's go over what he weighed in his last 3 or 4 fights. In his last fight against Tyson Fury, he weighed 226 pounds. Prior, 223. Against Daniel Dubois, he was 221. Interestingly, Dubois on that day was 233. Maybe worth remembering. And Usyk weighed 221 in his second fight against Anthony Joshua. We should remember that since moving to heavyweight, Olexander Usyk has sort of he's collected some British names on his record. He beat Derek Chisora. He beat AJ twice. Daniel Dubois once. And Tyson Fury twice. Let's have a look at Daniel Dubois. 22 wins, 21 by way of. Right? It's a very important thing to remember. He's only been the distance once, and that was against Kevin Johnson. 2 losses. He was beaten by Joe Joyce, and he was beaten by Olexander Usyk. Critics would say that on both occasions he chose not to continue, though I have a lot of sympathy for him, particularly in the Joe Joyce fight. He had, I think, cracked a bone, an orbital bone, So, quite frankly, that was a smart move. Against Usyk, people say he was stopped off a jab. I don't believe it was the jab that stopped him. I believe it was his own mind that stopped him. It was sort of like, I can't deal with this anymore, sort of thing. My guy, opinion, not saying that's fact. It's just my opinion. 27 years old. So this is key. An 11-year age difference. Daniel Dubois is 6'5", 78-inch reach. So the reach is the same. Again, worth noting. And he's from Greenwich, or as the Americans say, Greenwich. But he's from Greenwich in the UK. Let's go to his last few weights. Against AJ, he weighed 248. Against Filip Hrgović, 245. And against the Big Baby Miller, PED aficionado, he weighed 239. It's also worth noting that he's been collecting some O's, because when he beat Miller, stopped Miller last round, Miller was 26-0. When he stopped Filip Hrgović was 17-0. When he stopped AJ was 28-3. I mean, he'd lost to Usyk twice and to Andy Ruiz. 3 spectacular wins, right? And this is where the narrative is. The narrative, or the conventional wisdom, if you like, is that Daniel Dubois is in the ascendancy. Daniel Dubois has come off the back of 3 really spectacular looking wins. Big Baby Miller, who was not actually that fit, but was a real sort of test of Daniel's character, if you like. He'd given Daniel a lot of grief in the run-up to the fight, and Big Baby came to fight. So Daniel Dubois did very well to prevail there. Against Filip Hrgović, I think Filip Hrgović sort of almost took a bit of a lackadaisical attitude, and there was more than one Glaswegian kiss in that fight as well. But nevertheless, Hrgović was stopped on cuts. And AJ, well, AJ was clipped sort of around the ear area early on and never seemed to recover, and spent far more time on the canvas than AJ fans were comfortable with. And while AJ at the very end showed a glimmer of hope, he charged in, people might say recklessly, and paid the price. He looked very much like the Australian breakdancing woman at the Olympics. And I say this as a fan of AJ. This is not mocking AJ. It was spectacular, right? So they're saying that Dubois sort of on the ascendancy, 3 good wins. And the conventional wisdom is that Olexander Usyk is getting older. He may have lost half a step or more of pace. And that as every great champion who's had a couple of fights too many has found out, Father Time remains undefeated. Look at Joe Louis. But what do they really have? Well, let's stick with Dubois, since we're talking about Dubois. Power. Pure, unadulterated power. That's gotta be its strong suit. Speed. Daniel Dubois is deceptively fast. For a big man, he can close distance very quickly. He's no slouch. He's not one of these lumbering, mummy-like heavyweights. Dubois is a fit guy with lots of explosive, fast twitch muscle. One-shot knockout power. When you're the best part of 250 pounds and you know what you're doing, you've got that power and that speed, boom. Maybe not sort of Deontay Wilder at his peak, though, to be perfectly honest, we don't really know because the quality of opposition. But, you get the idea. But, maybe not Ernie Shavers, but very, very powerful fellow. And he appears to have aggression. He appears to have that ability to just phone in, and he's like a flat track bully. Like he's like very aggressive, very front foot. And if he seems to have you, he's not likely to let you off the hook, so to speak. And he's got this newfound confidence. Part of that would be growing up. He's now a full man, 27, where, a few years ago, when he was 24, 25, you could argue that he hadn't quite really matured. He appears to have done so now. And those wins. I mean, the win at Wembley Stadium over AJ in front of, I think it was 96,000 people, all of whom, well, not all, many of whom had been AJ fans, must be a massive shot in the arm of confidence. Now, what does Olexander Usyk still have? Footwork. Even though he may have lost a little bit of pace. He's got fast hands. He's got outstanding ring IQ. And he's got experience. Now, I hear you. You people are saying, well, Dubois got 24 professional fights. Usyk's only got 23. Dubois got more experience. But if you go back, you've got to go back to sort of, their entirety of their boxing career. And that's where I think Alexander Usyk's experience, shows that he simply got more of it. He's, more exposure. So, what does Daniel Dubois have to do? Well, with all those attributes, you would think that Daniel Dubois should sort of take a leaf out of, say, Derek Chisora's book. And really, as they say in the UK, put it on him early. And I would expect that that's what the plan will be. That Daniel Dubois isn't going to come out and try and box, because that's a losing adventure. Even former Olympic champion AJ couldn't outbox Alexander Usyk. A much better boxer than Daniel Dubois is Tyson Fury. And Tyson Fury couldn't outbox Usyk. So there's nothing to suggest that Daniel Dubois could outbox Usyk. He couldn't do it the first time round. He lost virtually every minute of every round, right? So I think he's going to have to come out and really put it on him. Now, that will, of course, open him up to counterpunching. But Usyk is unlikely to be able to sort of drop Dubois early, I would think. It would be the cumulative effect of punches rather than the single punch, if Alexander Usyk was able to put Daniel on the canvas. Excuse me. The key to Usyk prevailing, in my view, has been able to withstand the first 4 or 5 rounds. Usyk is not known as a wickedly fast starter. He sort of is the fellow who goes through the gears, and somewhere around round 8 or round 9, round 9 against Fury, one of my favourite rounds. Anyhow, I digress. He goes through the gears, and by about round 8 or round 9, as his opponents are like, Usyk is like, okay, I'm now in 4th, I'm moving to 5th. Anybody coming to join me? That kind of thing. If Usyk can survive that first 4 or 5 rounds of, blitzkrieg, I think we're going to see a repetition of the first fight, where Daniel Dubois will have tried everything, and Usyk is still in front of him. Usyk may actually touch down. I think it might be very, very difficult. But I do believe that he always finds a way to win. And that might be his superpower. So if Usyk can survive that first 4 or 5 rounds, I think we're then going to see a gradual diminution of Daniel Dubois' output. And I think we're going to find Daniel Dubois struggling to know what to do. Okay, I've tried this. The guy's still there. I don't know what to try now. And unlike Tyson Fury, I don't believe that Daniel Dubois is the kind of fighter who can make up plans on the fly. Tyson Fury almost sort of doesn't need directions. Like, Tyson Fury is a naturally gifted guy. It pains me to say this because I'm not a Fury fan, but, you know, truth is. I'm not seeing Dubois have that. So by about round 5 or 6, if Usyk is still there, I think we're going to see Usyk do what Usyk does. I then think that it's quite possible that around, say, round 8, 9, or 10, that Daniel might be under so much pressure, sort of out of ideas, that Daniel Dubois begins to crumble. And at that point, I think he's vulnerable for a stoppage. I'm not saying that it is going to happen. Of course, yeah. If I had a crystal ball, anyways. But I think that's possible. I think what is more likely is for it to go the distance, and for, while it might be that Dubois won the first, say, 4 or 5 rounds, that the remainder of the rounds are Alexander Usyk's. And it may well be a unanimous or even a split decision in the favor of Olexander Usyk. That's how I see it playing out. However, I have inoculated myself against sadness, because I will be sad if Olexander Usyk gets beaten. So what I have done is I have taken a betting strategy which is identical to the betting strategy I took with Dubois and AJ. I've salted a little bit of money away on Dubois to win. So, if I'm disappointed or a little bit teary-eyed, I might see in my online gaming account a couple of $100 that I didn't have before. And that'll sort of turn my frown upside down. I did that with AJ. In fact, absolute pure ass luck, I picked the right round for the Dubois knockout. So I was actually ka-ching on that, which again cheered me up because I was disappointed to see AJ lose. It's a strategy I've used before. Whenever I'm, concerned that my favorite fighter might not win, I'll put a few bucks on the opponent. It kind of, compensates me, if you like. Not necessarily a wise gambling choice. It's just something I personally do. Excuse me, please. So that's how I see it. I think that Alexander Usyk will win. I think it will be a very tough fight. And it would not surprise me at all if Daniel Dubois is able to prevail. If Dubois wins, I would think that Usyk would be owed a trilogy fight, because then it would be 1-1. But who knows? It's a business. Would we see Tyson Fury, come into the ring and start challenging Daniel Dubois? Maybe. And if that's the case, I will be Team Dubois all the way, should it be a Dubois-Fury fight. Actually, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Fury is going to fight anybody other than AJ. I'm not even sure if he's going to fight AJ. And I don't really care, to be perfectly honest. I'd rather watch Daniel Dubois and Moses Atoma and people like that do their thing. But hey, that's just me. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know, who do you want to win? Who do you think will win? And anything else you want to comment on. So, I will leave it there. Thanks so much for watching. If you've liked this video, please like. Please subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. And, share as well if you like. But most importantly, enjoy today's fights. Have a fabulous day wherever you are. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.